we need to discuss the Boston Bruins. Alright, so first of all, last night, the Boston Bruins went and beat the Toronto Maple Leafs in overtime, and that made them become a 61 win team. That is ridiculous. And I've got the stats up here. For most wins in a regular season, they are currently third with 61 wins. The two teams above them are the 1995-96 Detroit Red Wings, who had 62, and the Tampa Bay Lightning from not too long ago, from 18-19 season, had 62 wins as well. But the real kicker is here, the Bruins have 4 more games left. So let's just say they win 2 of those, they hold the record. Currently, they are only 4 points away from tying the points total record, which is the Red Wings have, which is 131. And man, who knows what this Boston Bruins team can do in the playoffs this year? But their regular season has been ridiculous, and let's go over some stats to show you. Okay, so first off, we got to go with their team leader in points, and that is David Pastrnak. He was on an expiring deal this season, working for a contract, but we know he signed for a hell of a ton of money. You know, he deserves it. He's currently, through 78 games, 104 points with 57 goals. We hadn't seen a 60-point goal scorer in a long time since Austin Matthews did it last year. Then we had Connor McDavid do it this year. With 3 games left, if Pastrnak scores 3 goals, he could become a 60-goal scorer too. And it's crazy to think about. Really is. He's almost got 50 assists as well. I have nothing really else to say about David Pastrnak. He just stepped up his game this year, and it's been really awesome to see. Almost a 60 goal scorer. Like, I still can't believe that if I'm saying that. We might have two 60 goal scorers this season. All right, just moving down by points, we got Brad Marchand with 63 points in 69 games. He obviously didn't start the season. He was injured and he came back. I don't remember how early, but he came back earlier than expected. And yes, he's not a point per game player like he has been the past couple of seasons, but I mean, he's still being Brad Marchand, still contributing on the power play, still contributing even strength, getting those clutch goals. No problems with Brad Marchand. He hasn't done anything ridiculous, you know. He's just been a really solid player. He likes to be a pest, and I like to see that in players, you know. Him and like Michael Bunting, if they go at it in the Stanley Cup playoffs, like those two teams, man, that would be awesome. Very awesome to see. We kind of saw it last night in that Toronto Boston game, but nevertheless, Brad Marchand, he's having a good season. Not his best season, but still having a good season. Next, we'll go down to their captain, Patrice Bergeron. You know, he's never been a point per game player, I don't believe, but I mean, that man is a Selke candidate every single season. He's got 57 points in 75 games. He's got almost 30 goals. For your captain who's getting up there in age and signed for such a low value that he is, if he can tuck 30 or even close to 30 in a season, that is amazing. And I wouldn't doubt that he has that clutch factor in the playoffs, especially with how this team is going this year. It's ridiculous to see for sure. I just want to shout out Jake Debrusk. He's having a phenomenal season this year too. He's not a point per game player, but I don't think he's really ever supposed to be. I know he has the capability of becoming one, but he's just he's just not at that level at the moment, I guess. But he's got 48 points in 60 games. He's at 25 goals, so almost another 30 goal scorer. It's been really cool to see how much Jake has elevated his game, especially since being drafted when Boston had 3 draft picks in a row. I don't remember what year that was, but you saw everyone who went behind, like Kyle Connor and just like Matt Barzal, I believe, went behind him too. But like he has shown that he's a valuable first round pick. He scored some clutch goals too. I remember in the Winter Classic this year, I think he got 2 goals. I think he got both the goals, if I'm not mistaken, or at least 2 goals. I don't remember the exact score against the Penguins, but I know he contributed. He got hurt in that game too, so it's kind of where he lost some time during the season, but he's come back. He's been making a difference, so good for Jake DeBrusk. Now I want to go over their deadline acquisitions. The Boston Bruins picked up Dmitry Orlov, and they picked up Tyler Bertuzzi. And these two players, just in general, I know they got a couple more players, but these two players in general have just made a difference. And I say that word a lot, but it really just makes the most sense to say because the Bruins were such a good team before the deadline, and they got even better. And Dmitry Orlov, I always saw him as more of a defensive defenseman because you had John Carlson, you just had other defensive players on the Washington Capitals that would put up more points, and his role, Orlov's role on the Capitals, I felt like while I watched was just more defensive play, right? And then when he goes over to the Boston Bruins, Jim Montgomery, I believe is the coach name, and he's just done a great job of getting every single person to do their role. And Dmitry Orlov has been unreal since he's joined the Boston Bruins. And congrats to him, because like I said, I didn't see him as an offensive threat, and that could have been me just being naive and not really watching the Washington Capitals as much. I also want to go over Tyler Bertuzzi, and let me see. Tyler Bertuzzi, he's only played 17 games this season. No way that's right. No way that's right. Is that 17 for the Bruins? I don't know. I know he's been injured, but only 17? That can't be right. So I found out Tyler Bertuzzi actually has played 46 games this season. Whatever I was looking at on my monitor right here was just for the Boston Bruins. He's got 46 games played, 7 goals, 16 assists, and 23 points. Just want to throw that in real quick. Tyler Bertuzzi, he loves sitting in front of that net. He loves just pounding in greasy goals, and he also just loves to get under people's skin. Back in Detroit, he'd always do that. I love to see that, and he's just a perfect fit for these Boston Bruins. So another fantastic ad at the deadline. We can't talk about the Boston Bruins and not mention their fantastic goaltending. Linus Ullmark, probably the Vezina Trophy winner this season. He's got a 937 save percentage right now, but he's played 47 games this season, 38 6 and 1 with a goal allow average of 1.91. Anything under 2 is just insane. Obviously, having a 930 save percentage this late into the season is ridiculous too. Um, he's just I have no words. Like Linus has just taken the words out of my mouth. If you guys played fantasy hockey this season, and if you picked him up, because I don't think anyone really drafted this man. No one really thought the Bruins would be as. I mean, how could you believe the Bruins would be as good as they are right now? But I don't think anyone drafted Linus Ullmark. If anything, people drafted Jeremy Swayman over Linus Ullmark. But if you were lucky enough to pick him up, just as and like I kept him the whole season in fantasy, and dude, he was just a brick wall. He lost 6 times in regulation and 1 overtime loss. That is crazy. Let's move on to Jeremy Swayman, who's their young goaltender, and he has been awesome too. Through 34 games, he's 22 6 and 4. I believe he played in the Boston Toronto game last night, and he just played really well. He's got a 921 in 34 games, and this just goes to show how good Boston's defense and just their goaltending is in general. You see it, the chemistry between Linus and Jeremy. They love playing together and they want to see each other succeed, and that's one of the most important parts you can have for a goaltender tandem if you're going to go every other game like they did. But I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs. I assume Linus is going to play every game. I don't think they're going to switch off throughout the regular season to just go 1-1-1, just switch off every game and still be probably the best team in NHL history. It's mind-blowing. It really is. All right, so I've got the standings up right now. Obviously, they have clinched the President Trophy. I think they did that a couple weeks ago, like no big deal. They had like what, almost 10 games left and they clinched the President's Trophy. It's crazy. It really is. Um, so they could either play either of the wild card teams that are fighting for the wild card right now, which could be the Florida Panthers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, or the New York Islanders. If you guys watched my first video I posted, it was about if Florida can even get in the playoffs. Currently, they are in a playoff spot, and so are the Islanders, and the Penguins are 1 point out. But who knows? This is gonna be a great wild card race. Everyone is right there. They all have the same amount of games. No one could really lose. Everyone's gonna win out. So Boston will play the latter of those two wild card spots, and I don't really think anyone can really contest with them unless it's the New York Islanders, just because Ilya Sorokin. Ilya Sorokin, he is just a fantastic goaltender, right? He's one of the best, and I think Linus Ullmark and Ilya Sorokin just first round would be crazy. I think they could push that to 6 games, just because Sorokin is Sorokin. But I don't see anyone really beating Boston in the first round. Win the second round, and even if they make it to the third round, that's where like I think Boston will have a problem. And even though they are the best team, they haven't played a team 4 to 7 games consecutively, right? So we'll have to see how they deal with a series matchup where everyone knows what's going on every other day. And I think between Toronto and Tampa, I think either one of those teams could beat them, but I also could see Boston whooping them too, just because Boston has been amazing this year. They're one of the most clutch teams. I believe they have the most third period goals out of anyone in the league this season. So if that doesn't tell you something of how they can just close out a game, I don't know what will. So the real question is, can the Boston Bruins win the Stanley Cup this year? And we all know the curse, the President's Trophy. You win it, you don't make it, you don't win the cup, right? That rarely happens. It happened to the 2013 Blackhawks. I think that was the last time it happened. But look at the Florida Panthers. They won the President's Trophy last year. Now they're fighting for a wild card spot. I think this is different. Even though the team ahead of them in the record books is the 2018-19 Tampa Bay Lightning, where they got swept by Columbus. You guys remember that? That was ridiculous. But I think this is different. If you watch like Behind the Beat that they post on their YouTube channel or just watch it on TV and everything like that, they're just mentality that they have as being a Boston Bruin, it's through the roof, and I could really see them making a huge dent in the Stanley Cup playoffs this season. With that being said, I think the Stanley Cup could go to the Boston Bruins this year, but they got to break the President's Trophy curse. Can they lock it down? Can they figure out how to beat a team not just on one night and play it by night, but throughout a whole series, and that they have to win 4 series? So only time will tell. I cannot wait to watch these Stanley Cup playoffs this season, and thank you guys.